Today I will be discussing the lore of a unique indie game. Despite the gameplay itself being great, the story is incredible, and it needs to be told. This video will have 5 main sections. It will start with the primary story, the mythology involved, then go to the history, then the true story, and uncategorized information. However, before we get straight to the action, I just wanted to say nothing. Enjoy. Welcome to Maid of Sker, a game about a cult burning people's faces so they can't see, but they can definitely hear. They don't hear that. Cool. Except for the doors opening. For some odd reason, they can't hear that. Anyways, this cult stuff is done for money so they can fund their plans. That's the summary. Before diving into the story, let's get a brief introduction into the history, because that ultimately led to the game. The accuracy between the legend and the game is definitely not there, but here it goes. In the old Sker house, a Wales legend tells a story about a girl named Elisabeth Williams, who was in love with a carpenter named Thomas Evans. Elisabeth and Thomas planned to get married. However, because of Thomas's lack of status, Elisabeth's father, Issac Williams, restrained them from being together. They eventually made a plan to run away so they could be together. However, Issac found their plans and decided to just shove Elisabeth in a bedroom and lock her in there until she agreed to marry someone else, which she eventually did. 9 years later, she died, and legend says she died from broken heart. But what about the hotel? What about Sker House? Well, that's just made up because the house was never a hotel. But in this game, it is, and has a pretty important part of the story. So yeah. Also, if you couldn't tell, there are spoilers in this video. So yeah. The game starts in October 1897, with our main protagonist Thomas Evans riding a train, reading a letter from his love, Elisabeth Williams. She tells him that her father has learned of their plans. You know, their plans to run away together. However, something has come up that is far worse than her father finding those plans. Her father seeks to use her, just as he used Elisabeth's mother, to sing and attract people to Sker Hotel. However, Elisabeth refused to sing, so her father confined her at Sker Hotel. But that is not all. Elisabeth asks Thomas to compose a melody as a counter to a song in her old mother's locket. After reading the letter, he gets off the train and he is greeted with an abandoned train stop. On his way, he spots a glowing light in the middle of a pond, hitting those high notes. This glowing light is possibly a reference to some sort of warning spirit, which is a specter sign that you will die. Oh yeah, there's also a dog. After a little more walking, the entrance to the hotel is spotted, and Thomas enters. The scene immediately shifts from a birds chirping, trees moving, dogs wolfing, to a hotel with blood on the floor, cases on the knocked floor. What am I talking about? Suitcases knocked on the floor, paintings knocked off the walls. A room with dark candles. No! Suddenly, he hears a phone call. It's Elisabeth.
Thomas.
She explains something terrible has happened at the hotel. She's locked up in the attic, hiding. She tells Thomas the people inhabiting at Sker Hotel will attack anybody that makes a sound, and the only hope of saving them is to find all 4 cylinders. All 4 cylinders, huh? This will produce a melody to affect the mind and stop the madness in Sker Hotel. So, the objective begins, and the piece ends. While searching for a cylinder, Thomas finds a man locked in a room named Henry Hughes.
Henry Hughes.
Who gets... Bad idea, dude.
No, don't do this.
Whatever you want, eh?
Shortly after that, the same glowing light from the pond earlier is spotted in a prayer room. In the prayer room, there's a Williams family Bible that mentions a bird and sirens. After reading that, the first cylinder is spotted beside some sort of prisoning speaker chair. However, there is an enemy lurking around it. They appear to have their full face covered with face bandages, so it is safe to assume they are blind. With that in mind, all that needs to be done is to stay quiet and walk around the blind man. Doing this grants the first cylinder, which is the Cerberus cylinder. Named after the watchdog of Hades' kingdom, this watchdog let no living humans through the underworld, except for Horvius, whose music allowed passage. After collecting the cylinder, Thomas heads down the bloody elevator into the basement. In the basement, we visit our new friend again. Somebody's crying. What a bitch. Henry Hughes, but for some odd reason, he was crying. Thankfully, he quickly stopped after getting his head bashed on some window, and then dragged away. After that, Thomas spots more blind men, which he stealthily walks around. A little more walking later, and Thomas hears Elisabeth calling again. They talk about why the men are blind, and what could have possibly happened to their faces. Elisabeth reminds him that the only hope of saving them is to find all the cylinders. And so, the search and horror continues. Despair and darkness creep around every corner, and more so outside. Suddenly, Thomas sees a grave labeled Prudence Williams. Prudence Williams? This is Elisabeth's mother's grave. What is he doing sitting here? How does that happen? While Thomas runs for his life, he falls down into a grave, in a cavern, which is probably where bad things happen. In this cavern, he finds a note labeled Jebediah's cult letter. In this letter, it talks about the quiet ones, for Jebediah is the leader of. It also talks about giving their flesh and bone to sacrifice the weakness within, and to join the ritual of rebirth. It continues to mention bringing garments of the quiet ones to shield from the weak leeches of the sacrifice. From this note, it can be concluded there are people called the Quiet Ones who perform sacrifices by damaging themselves, and they need to shield these wounds with a garment, such as bandages around their faces. Shortly after the note, the same glowing light that was spotted in the middle of the pond earlier is in the cavern. It's shown to be in a cage, until it disappears, just like before. A few feet away, there is a note by Issac Williams, which is Elisabeth's father. It details the following. Issac writes about a large ship spotted, and his father orders him and his crew to extinguish the flames of the beacon, to crash the ship. Once the ship crashes, they run up to it and see HMS Providence engraved gloriously. Issac writes about how there's a creature buried inside a wrecked ship's cargo hold, and this creature tries to sing, but it's too weak. Though, even in its weakened condition, the singing still affects the ship's men's minds. He continues to write about how the creature seems to lure its prey with the song, so it can devour and survive. Issac's father, Jebediah Williams, becomes interested in this beast's power and wants to control it. They begin to use it on Sker Point, just off the shore, to lure ships into a crushing mountain to their demise. You know, pillaging, robbing, maybe murdering. That kind of wholesome stuff. That way they can make more money. But there is more that can be done, and Issac has an idea. So, there is a creature that sings so it can lure and devour people. This is what you call a siren. Anyways, back to the journey. Thomas finds an old mine where more quiet ones lie. To get out of this mine, he has to flip 2 levers to unlock a door. I'm okay, I can heal. Did I close it? And that door leads to a cavern hoist leading outside. Outside, there's a note detailing Jebediah's ritual. The note has a bunch of crows on it, a reference to a Celtic goddess named Morrigan, who represents war, death, and destiny. Anyways, the ritual begins with the blessing. Douse the follower to cleanse the impurities. The prayer. Expose them to its thrall. The exorcism. Shield their senses from the song. The rebirth. Arise new devotee to the silence. So, what I'm getting out of this is they pour cleanser on the follower to clear their mind, to make the follower appear. Then, they expose it to the Siren's song. After that, the exorcism takes place, which is where the bandages go around the face to shield the follower from the outside sources so they can stay pure. And then, the rebirth means the follower is now an official quiet one. They live in silence. Yay. Okay, that's enough with the notes. It's gameplay time. While searching for a cylinder, Thomas spots a ritual of rebirth taking place. Not good idea, dude. Huh. Just pouring alcohol on him? That's the ringleader, right? Run. So, half of what happened in the note happened in the scene, the blessing and the prayer. However, one thing that the note did not show, that the scene did, is lighting the follower's face on fire. That was not on the note. Anyways, judging by the weeping of this victim, it does remind you of somebody, doesn't it? Yep, that's Henry Hughes, unwillingly experiencing the ritual of rebirth. Anyways, I'm going to pretend that didn't happen and talk about a dog. So, while walking, Thomas spots a dog. And that's it. Yep, they kind of just disappear in the bushes. And shortly after seeing a dog, more quiet ones are spotted. Lots of them. Not to mention a weird-looking purple cloud is spawned, which is, deadly. Afterward, Elisabeth's calling again, and Thomas answers. He mentions he keeps seeing a dog, and Elisabeth says,
"Oh,
Calliope?
that must be Calliope.
Calliope.
My late mother's dog."
It's Calliope, which is of course named after Greek mythology, the saint of epic poetry. Shortly after the call, he hears something. Did the dog step on a bear trap? Oh my gosh. No. There's lots of bear traps here. Oh, no! 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 Hey, Calliope? Calliope? Okay. Oh shit. Yes, I am your savior. So, Calliope is caught in a bear trap and Thomas saves her. But there's more. He spots a cylinder on Sker Point, and again with a speaker torture chair. But that totally doesn't matter, right? Because the cylinder is the hero cylinder with an image of a Greek warrior. Probably represents doing something for glory, if the theme stays true, or maybe invulnerability. Thereafter, a particular device is seen. Thomas picks it up and uses it. Wow. It produces a melody to temporarily stun the enemies. How convenient. A perfect weapon to get out of bad situations. However, who made this? It heavily suggested that Issac Williams made it. There's also more information on the purple gas, which was made to make the victims less resistant in the ritual of rebirth. Anyways, from what it looks like, the device needs a music locket, which is used to produce the melody. But for the device to work, it needs a cartridge, which is some sort of chemical thing. And finally, the device produces a high frequency, fluctuating a loud and quiet sound, as well as a low frequency, all to create a tone to stun people. Back to the game. And this device is called the phonic modulator. Alright, phonic modulator. Anyways, this device should make things a lot easier, right? Right? Nope, because Big Bad Abraham, Elisabeth's uncle, shows up. And he's not very friendly. Immune to the phonetic modulator, Running is the only option with this guy. Keeping that in mind, Thomas quickly runs and opens the door. Back inside Sker House. Inside an undiscovered part of the house, he opens another door, just to be greeted with a prep showing for an audience. Unfortunately, the quiet ones didn't like the show, and so the windows shattered, the hissing intensified, modern day audiences. This play shows a chest in front of a mermaid, which is probably a siren luring the victim to their demise. Fortunately for Thomas, this is just a show, and there is a key labeled Kraken inside of the chest. He quickly unlocks the door and sprints out. Oh look, there's Elisabeth calling again. Thomas tells her that he managed to find a cylinder. She tells him that other cylinders must be in the hotel, and to start searching on the first and second floors. However, there is no known method to travel to the upper floors. So, what needs to be done? Well, a secret passage is found, but is only activated with a combination. While solving this puzzle, a note by Issac is found, detailing the effects of the cylinders on a so-called Subject 4. Issac writes, Subject 4 showed greatly increased suggestibility and compliance after repeated sessions in the chair. The speaker torture chair I've been sort of referencing? That's next to each cylinder part. Back to the note. In each cylinder, there are recordings of a melody to affect the mind. They use the cylinders there to perform an audio stimulus on the victims. The tests consist of both audio stimulus and visual suggestion, which both worked. But Issac wants larger results on mass audiences. So, Issac wants to control people with the cylinders and do what exactly? What is the purpose of it? Well, you are just going to have to find out. Anyways, back to the puzzle. Looking around for any clues, Thomas spots 4 paintings. These 4 paintings are in a particular order. It goes like this: Bulldog Bitter, Sker Hotel, Dragon Cider, and Queen Victoria. Not really important, but using the paintings, the combination is shown, so that's cool. Subsequently, Thomas went up the ladder on the first floor and found a note discussing more about the findings of the creature on the HMS Providence ship. Jebediah writes about how he thinks he found the daughter of Pesano after observing the effect of the creature's song on his men. The Pesano in the Greek mythology is a bird with a woman's head. The bird represents a beautiful voice, while the woman's head was used to get the victim's attention focused elsewhere. Because, otherwise it would just be a bird. Sealed in a glass-paneled and iron cage, held with thick chains and badly injured, Jebediah writes how lucky they were to find the creature in such tragic state, because if it wasn't, their doom would have surely followed. Oh looky, it's Henry Hughes. He looks different. I'm sure he's fine. In the room he so graciously left, there is a broken crest piece. The use of the crest will be explained shortly, but first, let's go back to reading notes. And this one is pretty interesting. This note is labeled Isaac's reprimand of Abraham. It criticizes Abraham's use of wicked destruction, of burning bodies, and the effects it has on the hotel. They previously built the murder rooms to feed the Siren, and to restore the hotel's grandeur. But Abraham, being Abraham, apparently murders people, and the effects of these murders are showing. With the lack of people attending the hotel, it becomes clear Abraham doesn't care about restoring the hotel's glory, but instead cares about profits, even if it does destroy the customers. And so... Oh, yeah, I just skimmed over the fact that there are murder rooms. The hotel rooms were designed to murder people and to feed the siren. Okay, that's crazy. Oh, look, there's Henry Hughes. Oh, look, there's Henry Hughes. Anyways, back to the crest. Thomas found another crest in a ship model. This crest is useful for... Well, let's just have Elisabeth tell you.
There is an elevator. More of my father's tinkering and engineering. But he made a complex lock, which requires 4 parts of our family crest to open.
Figured that out already.
Wait. Someone's coming.
No, someone's coming.
Thomas, you have to hurry for both our sakes.
Alrighty, buddy. So, what's needed are 4 broken crest pieces for each colored crest. Forest green, red, yellow, and turquoise. Fast forwarding a little bit and another crest piece is found, but something doesn't seem right. Well, we'll get back to that later. In the meanwhile, listen to this phonograph. Just click play on it.
Oh, I despair of that child. Her willful insolence shall be the downfall of us all. Here we stand, at the edge of ruin, and yet we have the answer. Caged and bound in irons in the caves below the point, at the mercy of when I choose to provide its sustenance. And for what? For Elisabeth to refuse to sing its song? I'm not asking her to bring back my father's slavish cult. No! Just to help me reopen the hotel and restore its grandeur. Our family's grandeur. All she must do is sing to lure them here in their droves. If not her, then how? There must be some other way, some method of using my recordings. But how to focus the effects without a singer to wield its intent?
So in this phonograph, Issac talked about how he doesn't want to bring back Jebediah's cult, instead to restore the hotel's grandeur. But this doesn't really make any sense because there is definitely a slavish cult walking around this hotel, and it is not glorious. Maybe he became consumed with the Siren song and lost his mind. And whenever you make a sound that isn't the Siren song, they get upset. They don't want to hear anything else. They want to hear the Siren song, which is why they remove their ability to see, as they only want to hear. Later in the video, it is explained better. For now, music dolls need to be collected. In this scene, there are pretty subtle foreshadowing and story moments in here. First, there's a picture of Shore Point with a bell ringing. Second, there is what I'm assuming is a representation of Abraham's room, with bear traps, his hat, bloody rabbit, alcohol, and then a sound of a bird. Music click, this one. Third, there's a picture of Prudence Williams, Elisabeth's deceased mother, with a violin sound. Fourth, there's a drawing of human anatomy, with lots of notes and illegible text, and chalk writing sounds. Okay, here we go. Fifth, there's a headless mannequin displaying a black dress with cracked mirrors around it. And oh look, it's a music doll. Lastly, there's Matilda Norton, one of the composers tasked to make the countersong part. Around Matilda, there are dead birds in cages, which represents death. Oh yeah, also Matilda Norton is headless. So, you may be wondering, where is her head? Well, just keep the question in mind, and I can guarantee you, it will be answered. Onward we go. Thomas found the library, which is where the broken crest piece is. Skipping over the long process of pulling levers and stealthing around the quiet ones, here lies the broken crest piece in the hands of Thai. After collecting the broken crest piece, the totally not an obvious trap crest needs to be taken. Nope, it's cutscene, great. No! Shit. Shit. What?
Let's get out of here. Yes, I got out. Oh, let's go, dude.
Oh wow, that was easier than I expected. Time to go to the second floor.
Okay, let's run to the door. Just click any door. Just click anybody.
On the second floor, there's yet another call from Elisabeth.
Thomas? Thomas? My uncle Abraham might be on the second floor now.
Oh shoot. And she warns Thomas that Abraham, the giant, is on the second floor. So with Abraham chasing him around the hotel, I think this is a good time to read some notes. Titled Elisabeth's Countersong Plan, it details her plans to counteract the influence of the Siren song. She talks about how her father listens to the recordings of the creature's song using a machine he created, and it consumes him. She makes plans of distributing the song to 4 different composers: Thomas Evans, Matilda Norton, Arthur Morris, and Henry Hughes, 2 of which have been seen already, 1 dead, and 1 as a quiet one. So to actually play the countersong, the music sheets are needed, otherwise it would not work. Shortly after the note, a phonograph details more of what this machine is, and what Elisabeth plans to do.
Time has run out. Father intends to use his grand harmonium The machine he has devised tonight. To use the recorded song of that lamentable creature on the household and staff. A dress rehearsal for his grand reopening. One final test before... Oh, I'm not ready. I've tried to compose it myself. Tried until my fingers bled on the keys and my voice cracked. But at last, 2 composers of the countersong have arrived at the hotel. I must speak with them before the dress rehearsal. I can only pray that this will be enough. I could leave still, slip away. I've thought about it again and again in recent days, but that would only be condemning the others to my father's experiments. No. I must face our family's sins. And if I must, I shall pay the price.
Her father intends to use the grand harmonium using the recording of the Siren song. It is too late for the countersong plans. There are only 2 composers who have arrived. The rest of the music sheets she has to compose herself, and she did. However, judging by how the quiet ones don't even act human anymore, and that they are just wandering violent corpses, it is safe to assume she failed, and made it much worse than it ever was. On the run from Abraham, Thomas wanders into the musical instrument room, and amazingly he wins the fight with electricity and loud sounds. But wait, Elisabeth's calling, so he goes to check that out.
Yes, I'm still here. I thought you were...
I thought I was too, honestly.
Something just...
I'm like 1 HP.
The other musicians. You asked us all to compose part of the piece.
It doesn't matter. We were all too late. All that matters now are my father's cylinders. We need them to... Wait! There's someone here.
What is it, Elisabeth?
Somebody is trying the door, Thomas. I must go.
No!
Stop! Let go of me! Let me go! Get off!
Anyways, now it's time to go grab that key, and to go up to the attic to save Elisabeth, because that's totally possible and a good idea. On the way to save her, there's a cylinder labeled Siren. I mean, should I really explain this one? Siren equals bad, okay? Let's go back to saving Elisabeth, shall we? But before that, there is a diary entry. Elisabeth's diary entry details as follows. Elisabeth performed what she could of the countersong, but something went terribly wrong. When she played it, it sent everyone mad. Everyone started screaming and attacking each other, and Issac started to bleed from his ears, becoming unhinged. Okay, back to saving Elisabeth. So, Thomas went up to the attic. However, he fell into Issac's trap with a headless mannequin. Oh wait, that's actually not a headless mannequin because there's a real head on it. Okay. Which, if you forgot, is Matilda Norton's head. So yay, we found her head. However, there are consequences. Uh-oh, it's broken. The consequences of a breaking of a weapon that I never really used. Alright, it doesn't matter. After that, a more sinister event takes place. A dark room filled with what I assume is corpses, and the only light in the room being a glimpse of Issac. This can't be good. Suddenly, a room full of top-bodied mannequins with a torture speaker chair. I really don't know what I should call this chair. I'm no expert. Anyways, a cylinder is found, labeled Medusa. This references one ugly... Okay. No, but if we actually look back at the other cylinders, one was the Cerberus cylinder, named after the watchdog of Hades' kingdom, and the second one was the Hero cylinder, with an image of a Greek warrior. The third one was the Siren, which lures people to their demise. And the last one, which is the one I just found, Medusa, which represents something you can't see. And if you do, you are dead. So what do these have in common? Well, if I were to guess, they are all negative, such as Cerberus, only allow music into hell, Hero, glory, Siren, lure, and Medusa, horrifying to see. Using that, I will state my theory that could very well be wrong, but here we go. Cerberus, the watchdog of Hades will guard you. The Hero, for glory. Medusa, you must not see. The Siren, for you can only follow the Siren song. Which makes sense to me, but, you know, just my thoughts. So... does this mean the cylinders are bad? Well, of course it does. So, what about Elisabeth? Why is she getting Thomas to collect these cylinders? If they promote such horrid events, These cylinders couldn't possibly be used for good unless she somehow figures out a way to reverse the cylinders' effects. Well, I'm just gonna have to leave you on a cliffhanger for that one. On the way to find Elisabeth, something happens.
Oh, fuck!
Captured by Issac, Thomas wakes up to Issac again, this time without his face garment. There's also a face garment ready for Thomas. As Issac performs the cleansing known as the blessing, Calliope saves the night.
Dogs save the day.
Sacrificing themselves. After that experience, a phonograph is found, with Elisabeth manically laughing. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. It is safe to assume she has fallen under the influence of the Siren's song. But if that wasn't enough, here's a diary entry from Elisabeth detailing the effect of the song on her. She writes about how she might be following the same path as her mother and that the song sent her mad. She continues to write about how she is losing control of her thoughts. The only hope is for Thomas to do what she asked of him. And now to the final showdown.
Thomas, can you hear me?
Yeah?
You must stay still when Father's not playing.
After Elisabeth tells Thomas how to defeat her father, he places Elisabeth's mother's music locket into a machine. It knocks Issac down. After the final showdown, Elisabeth speaks through the speakers.
Thomas, my love, come to me. I'm waiting for you by the grand harmonium.
However, before going to Elisabeth, the final music sheet needs to be found. Otherwise, the countersong will not be played correctly. Behind a hidden wall lies Arthur Morris. Strapped to the torture speaker chair, he is deceased. But he has a music sheet, which will be gladly taken. And a little detour going back up to the attic, a diary entry is found. Wait, this isn't normal, folks. I have a theory that she went crazy. Well, there's only one way to figure that out. Time to go see her.
Here it is. All I've been doing, it's all led up to this moment.
Thomas, my love, you're safe.
You're not even looking
I
at
had
me.
to flee the attic. I've been hiding from them ever since. But we must hurry. Do you have the cylinders?
Granted with two choices, either to give Elisabeth the cylinders or to not give her the cylinders and instead have Thomas play the countersong? Yeah, I think the answer is pretty obvious. However, the canon choice is a bit more complicated. Anyways, while Elisabeth bites her nails, totally not nervous, I take my time and choose the option to play the countersong. I'm assuming the words "No, I don't trust you, I will play the countersong" aren't actually said by Thomas. And instead, he says something to make Elisabeth think he trusts her. So, he doesn't put in the cylinders, but he does play the countersong.
And gain control of the Siren song for ourselves. Bring order to them. What are you doing? No! Thomas, you don't understand.
And once he starts playing the countersong, the grand harmonium continues the notes as an automated system. All while this is happening, Elisabeth is going nuts, and the Siren song forcibly exits her mind.
Thomas? What am I doing? The countersong, yes.
With the corruption gone, she begins to sing the countersong, causing the Siren song influence to exit everyone's minds. While this is happening, Thomas and Elisabeth are taken down to the caverns, where the Siren and the crashed HMS Providence ship lies. Together, they will free the Siren to hopefully rid her family of the curse.
To free this thing and my family from this curse.
Additionally, there's another cutscene where Elisabeth and Calliope are staring at Elisabeth's mother's grave.
There's more. With the dog. The dog's alive.
So let's get into the good stuff. As seen in the cutscene, the cylinders aren't used. Our main protagonist is actually smart and not blinded by love. He figures out the cylinders are not needed for the madness to stop. Instead, the music sheets are the only thing actually needed. So he plays the counter song and everyone lives happily ever after. However, what about the other option? The option where Thomas is completely blinded by love. Yes, I trust you. Here are the cylinders, my love.
Then we cannot waste any time. Quickly, give them to me.
Here you go. And he gives Elisabeth the cylinders.
Evil.
Thank you, Thomas. There will be a place for you.
Oh, wow. It's reversed. Yep, you can definitely tell night and day with the other one. This one and the other one, man, night and day. You are gonna torch it. Oh, wow. You're gonna kill the siren.
Kill it for me.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, let's do that.
You acting concerned now? Yay! So in the bad ending, the cylinders are inserted. The song is different from what it was shown in the good ending, and Thomas is ordered to kill the siren instead of freeing it. This is pretty messed up, and it definitely isn't a satisfying ending. Anyways, let's take a detour. So, Elisabeth never said anything about the music sheets to Thomas Evans, and when Thomas brought it up, she dismissed it. The other musicians, you asked us all to compose part of the piece?
It doesn't matter. We were all too late. All that matters now are my father's cylinders. We need them to...
Saying it doesn't matter anymore, and she only talked about the cylinders. So, she was affected by the siren's song the whole time. In the game, Jebediah notes he thinks he found the Pesano, the daughter of the Melpomene, the muse of the chorus and of tragedy. He begins to use it to lure ships into their demise onto Sker Point, so he can gather the money for the hotel. However, his son Issac Williams offers an idea to harness the siren's power further. He proposes that his beloved Prudence Williams can learn the song. As Prudence Williams begins to learn its song, a new task is developed. Developing a melody to affect the mind and to record it on the cylinders. Issac quickly begins testing the effects of the cylinders on the hotel guest. Eventually it is done, the cylinders have been perfected, and their plans to make Sker Hotel glorious are almost complete, until Prudence Williams croaks. With her no longer to sing the song, the cylinders don't have the full effect. Issac must teach Elisabeth the song. However, she refuses to sing the song. But Issac has an idea for a less stubborn miracle solution. Issac plans to use the grand harmonium to use the cylinders and to play the previous recordings of Prudence Williams singing the song. Basically, the cylinders are recordings of a melody, and the siren song is also recorded on the phonographs. So, keeping the siren alive is pretty much pointless, which explains why it is killed at the bad ending. However, the cylinders are separated into 4 different parts, because the full effects of the song will only take place if the correct sequence is played. The order of the cylinders goes like this: Cerberus, the hero, Medusa, the siren. All that needs to happen is to put the cylinders in the grand harmonium and sing the song. But what about Elisabeth hiding from the quiet ones? Why was she still hiding? Why didn't she go after the cylinders herself? Well, when Elisabeth performed the partial of the counter song, it made everyone mad, and she didn't... you know what? I I don't know exactly, man, okay? All I know is she wanted to plan a trap for Thomas since he was the last person invited to the hotel. And the only way to get him to stay there is for Elisabeth to act like she's in danger and that he needs to find the cylinders fast or something terrible could happen. But in reality, if he would have just left, brought the police, and started shooting up the place... Oh, I missed. I missed again.
Oh my god! Where's Siren? Okay. It would have been a lot easier. You see, even if Elisabeth inserted the cylinders into the Grand Harmonium, I have a theory that she would have to record her voice and continuously play it in the hotel, which I don't think anybody will be able to sleep with that. Getting rid of possible problems and also getting them to get the thing you want is a win-win scenario. So I guess it makes more sense this way. Anyways, it was all about gaining Thomas's trust and then to trap him in the attic where there's no escape. Luckily for him, there was a way out and he escaped, but then he was caught again. And by some miracle, the dog followed him and saved him. Now for when Elisabeth told Thomas how to beat her father in the boss scene. That, I guess you could say it was the good part of Elisabeth that came out of it. I don't know exactly, which is also shown in the bad ending where she looks very concerned just before Thomas gets bagged, but I really don't know. Getting back on track, the bad ending didn't really seem likely until I found out Sker Ritual existed. Oh my gosh! Oh, guns.
Sker Ritual kills my thoughts of this being a ditched ending and instead amplifies the idea that the bad ending is the real ending. Because, yes, they made a second game expanding on the bad ending. However, this video is about Maid of Sker, so let's continue with that.
And so the story ends, and the history begins.
In Greek mythology, the Siren, half bird, half woman, or in the game's case, a bird with a woman's face, this creature is known for their lures, such as a song that will make people forget and leap into their death. However, one instance when the sirens failed to lure their prey, like when Orpheus from Greek mythology was able to drown out the siren's song with his own music. However, the sirens did not drown themselves this time. Another would be when Odysseus waxes men's ears to block the siren's song, which the sirens did drown themselves this time. The origins from the name Siren comes from the Greek word, however you say that, Sarah, meaning rope. There were 4 well-known sirens such as Pesano, Alagolope, Thelixapia, Legaia. The main focus is Pesano, whose name means affecting the mind. Sirens would lead ships into their demise with their enchanting songs, that being off cliffs or into the surrounding land. In the game, the siren is used to crash ships and to promote a cult for the purpose of becoming wealthy and opening a magnificent hotel. However, the original purpose is skewed by the corruption that the siren song eventually caused. This is shown with the second game, Sker Ritual. But again, this video is about Sker Ritual. No, it's not. But again, this video is about Maid of Sker, not the other game. Now for Celtic folklore. The most notable of Celtic folklore, Morrigan, which roughly means Great Queen. The goddess of war, death, and fate, she most notably shapeshifts into a crow, and is a horrific omen of death. In many stories, she was able to manipulate her enemies, such as attacking as an animal, getting injured, then shapeshifting into an old lady, still injured, but with a few tricks, she convinces the enemy to bless her, and she is healed. On top of that, when her enemy does bless her, their doom will fall shortly. In the game, crows are often seen in notes, such as the Ritual of Rebirth note. However, Morrigan herself isn't really in the game, she is only used to symbolize war, death, and fate. War, death, and fate can easily be used to describe anything in any story, but I'll do it anyways. For the Ritual of Rebirth, war, the fight for purity, death, death of free will, or self, and fate, destiny of becoming a quiet one. As for Welsh, well, it gets a bit more creepy for this one. A Cahuraith, a voice and a spirit that insinuates death. The word Cahuraith roughly translates to welling, and is an omen to impending demise. Sometimes accompanied with a corpse light or a candlecorph, which warns that many enemies will die that night. A corpse light with a glowing orb similar to the glowing spirit seen in the game. I would like to say the glowing spirit in the game is both a Cahuraith and a corpse light, however in the game it sings, and only wails when it is approached. More on this is discussed later.
With the mythology out of the way, we can now talk about the history of Sker House. The history of Sker House goes all the way back to around the 1150s, where it was made in a way to support the Margrave Abbey, a Cistercian order, by providing a place to stay while they attended their farms. However, roughly 400 years later, in 1536, Henry VIII caused the destruction of monasteries. This termination led to the ownership transfer of Sker House. However, it was transferred multiple times, and while the constant transferring was happening, it still inhabited deserted monks, who were later executed for promoting the old religion in 1597. On to shipwrecks. Throughout the years, many shipwrecks took place near Sker Point. It had strong currents and was otherwise known as Black Rocks for tearing ships apart, and any loot on these shipwrecks could legally be taken. And combine this with intentionally luring ships to the rocks at night, it becomes easily exploitable. The technique used to crash the ships were as follows. Tie lanterns to the cattle or sheep, leading them to the seafront. This would make the ships think there are other ships lying safely on an anchor, helping lure the passing ships into rocks, killing the crew so the landowners can claim the loot. Oh yeah, I also forgot to mention that the beacon or light telling the passing ships that there's land needs to be extinguished. That way, the ships will have no way of knowing where the land is. Anyways, there's a tale where the ship called Le Vainqueur crashed on the Sker Point and harbored a bunch of healthy men. Well, at least before they crashed. Now they are a bunch of cripples. Despite them being unwell, they were still pillaged, which was apparently legal, and they left the dying men to suffer. After this, the captain of the ship is said to haunt Sker House, attached to the pillaged loot, though that's not apparently all. Since this was a French ship, it was not taken very well. Issac Williams had to be held responsible for the wreck, and more than a dozen people were arrested. However, Issac wasn't. Hauntings. Now for the hauntings. Throughout the years, the house went cold. Nothing really happened here except speculation. People reported seeing ghost ships just off the Sker Point, lights flickering as well as wailing sounds, similar to Kahuraith. Sorry about repeating myself, but a Kahuraith is a creature most commonly referenced when shipwrecks are about to happen. People only see it when they are about to die. However, it can be seen as a warning, and to take extra precautions. As for a Canwellcorph, or a corpse site, they don't just appear anywhere. They appear on a path. On ground, they would lead to the victim's deathbed. Again, I'm not entirely sure if there's a Kahuraith and a Canwellcorph or other omens in the game, but it would make sense given the popular reference to them at Sker House. And there is some evidence of it in the game. In the game, the first time the spirit is shown is at the pond. Then, when the first cylinder is shown, the glowing spirit is shown right above the cylinder, possibly warning to stay away from the cylinder. Another location is in the mines, in a cage. And the last time it's shown is in Elisabeth's room, probably warning Thomas to stay away from Elisabeth. Or, the actual last time it is shown is when Thomas kills the Siren, which, after seeing the glowing Kahuraith and a Canwellcorph for the fourth time, he is doomed. At first, I thought this light was the spirit of the Siren, or just a remnant left behind, like when the Siren song was used. However, let's note what we can observe. So, it glows like a gold sun color, it has a glowing orb in the middle, and is surrounded by some sort of shield, and it looks to be taking in the energy as well. It sings until the player approaches it. After the player approaches the orb gets sucked into the sky like a vacuum, very fluid-like. It hits high notes after being approached, with birds wailing, which is probably the siren wailing. Another thing is the light is shown throughout the game in vastly different areas. So with that in mind, it does have the criteria of a Kahuraith for which it wails. As well, it does somewhat fit the criteria for a Canwellcorph with its glowing light, and half of the time it appears near danger. I'm 70% sure it's a Canwellcorph and a Kahuraith, but just to put it out there, this is just speculation. So, now to the true story. Sker House was taken possession by a famous landlord, Issac Williams, in 1700s, which is not close to the time period of the game. Anyways, Isac's daughter, Elisabeth, fell in love with a harpist and a carpenter named Thomas Evans. Issac eventually found out and forbade her from seeing him. He didn't want his daughter to marry a simple carpenter despite Thomas's talents with music. However, this did not stop Elisabeth and Thomas from being together. They devised a plan to run away together. However, Issac found out and locked Elisabeth in the house until she agreed to marry someone else. She eventually did marry someone else, but she died at a young age, and from what the legend says, she died from a broken heart. Though even when she was announced dead, people who passed the house reportedly saw Elisabeth through the upstairs window as she waited for her true love to come back. The song. And for Thomas, he wrote a song called Maid of Sker, meaning the lady from Sker, where he writes about how he lives in sorrow and he wants a bright star so his love can be near him. But this is just his inner wild man imploring him to think that. He explains he must move on and he hopes she continues to look after him. Miscellaneous. Now to the stuff where I couldn't categorize. Welsh songs. Let's talk about Welsh folklore. Welsh hymns and lullabies, Calan Lan, A Pure Heart, Seogan, a Welsh lullaby, A Hydnos, All Through the Night. Starting with Calan Lan, translating to Pure Heart, came into light during the Welsh revival of 1904 through 1905. It was sung in the spiritual longing for holiness and is characterized by integrity, honesty, purity, and joy. Anyways, it's played when the player is near a cylinder. It's also played during the ritual of rebirth, and it's sung in the bad ending. So basically everywhere there's danger, it is sung. It is the Siren song. It lures people with a sense of holiness or lan into their demise. Second, Seogan, translating to lullaby, is the counter song sheet we saw in the game. This is sung in the good ending. As for Ahidnos, translating to All Through the Night, it isn't played that much in the game. The only time I could find it is... yeah, I couldn't find it. That's pretty odd. Now, for the clarification part. In no particular order, I will be talking about the story details that just give it a little bit more flair. In the ledgers, Issac Williams made sure he picked people who wouldn't be missed, or people who were alone. When Arthur Morris arrived, they noted he was a musician, and they tested the cylinders on him. Issac reported the findings on October 4th. When Matilda Norton arrived on October 7th, Issac notes yet another musician, and they are asking too many questions. He probably planned to make her a quiet one, but something went wrong. Strapped to a chair, probably the ones used for the ritual, she couldn't move. It is safe to assume she didn't handle the ritual of rebirth very well. Another thing is, Elisabeth's mother didn't want her daughter to follow in her footsteps. She wanted her to leave Sker Hotel, and that she was going to die. Unknown reasons, of course. However, the importance is that Prudence Williams wasn't evil, but instead was convinced by power and fame. And the most important clarification is, what about the garments, the blindness? Well, that answer is easy. They blocked all of their senses except for their ears. That way they can focus on the Siren song. But Isaac, Abraham, and the staff weren't always like this. They were normal. I'm going to make an assumption and say before Elisabeth tried the failed counter song, the Williams family was normal, and they actually didn't worship the song. They didn't have face garments on, and they were just simply trying to use the Siren song along with the cylinders to make people their servants and stay at the hotel. They, however, did perform ritual of rebirths on people and did take away their sight. This way, they had a slavish cult, which was Jebediah Williams' idea. However, Isaac didn't want to have a slavish cult. He wanted to drive people to the hotel and restore the hotel's grandeur. So Isaac started working on a way to lure people. He began to work on cylinders that create a melody to affect the mind. The cylinders would simply just make people more suggestible and compliant. However, with the Siren song, it controls people, which is shown in the bad ending. Anyways, everything was going well until Prudence Williams died, and he now had to convince Elisabeth to learn the Siren song. She detested and chose to sabotage Isaac's plans in good faith. However, she only made things worse. Her attempt at the counter song caused her family to become completely consumed by the Siren song, and in the game, Isaac writes, "Resist the song in blood," just before he is consumed. So, to sum it up, once the Siren song and the cylinders are combined, anyone who hears it is doomed. If you're interested in more Maid of Sker, I've already posted 2 videos on it. Both of them are gameplay videos. Not like a lore video like this, but I think it's still good, right? Anyways, I will just end the video with some unanswered questions, like who wrote that one mysterious note? What is the moral of the story? What is the lesson that can be learned? Well, I don't really know. I'll take a guess and say the moral of the story is to seek answers before contributing to a cause. Yeah, I told you I didn't know. Anyways, wouldn't the 4 composers tell a relative or friend that they are leaving to conduct business at Sker Hotel? If that were the case, then more people would start searching at Sker Hotel, and eventually the police would come and shut it down. What are the board pins leading to on this board? It is unexplained. It's probably nothing, but maybe it is. I don't know. That's why it's in here. And to end it off, where is Jebediah Williams? I'm pretty sure he's not dead because his grave isn't spotted in the graveyard, and given that he's probably only in his 60s, he probably isn't dead because of age. So where is he? Well, I don't know. Maybe Jebediah had his disagreements and left. So even when you do the good ending, there are still loose ends. Jebediah Williams is nowhere to be spotted. He might be in Sker Hotel, the second game, but because I don't want to spoil the second game, I'm not going to look into that. The important thing here is that his body is never found. His departure, if true, is not mentioned or hinted at. So what happened to him? Jebediah's location is the biggest mystery in the game. That is the end. Finally. Holy shit.